And joining me live now to discuss the latest on the Russia-Ukraine conflict is Lawriwsky, author and former chair of the Ukrainian Studies Foundation at Monash University. Thank you so much for joining us on Sky News. We're hearing about several missile attacks on Ukraine, including a few hours ago in Kyiv, according to Reuters. What have you heard about that?
Well, I actually just gave a friend, a professor of philology in Kyiv, a call about 5 minutes ago. And she's had a terrible night. She's just trying to get to sleep now. She said that till 6:30 in the morning they had air raid sirens still blaring. It's 7:30, almost 7:30 in the morning there now.
Gosh, it is relentless.
Well, we know from... Yes, it is. We know that a couple of days ago they had 650 drones and 30 missiles coming in. The F-16s, which were provided by Europe, did a pretty good job then and knocked down, I think, 29 out of the 30 missiles. Not sure about the drones, but they want to overrun them with all these drones and missiles together.
US President Donald Trump, we know for such a long time he's been saying that he can end the war. He said that at the start of his second term in office. Why hasn't he been able to achieve this?
What President Trump doesn't understand is that Russia sees the actual existence of Ukraine as a security threat, as a threat to its own existence. Ukrainians just want their security, they want their sovereignty, they want prosperity. That's what they're after, without Russia telling them what to do. And what Mr. Putin wants to do is to actually enforce a genocide of Ukrainians. Ukrainians living in Kyiv and saying they're Ukrainians is what he doesn't want, because that goes against the historical mythology that Russians have pursued for the last 300 years. So therefore, Putin can't stop. Even if he wanted to, he'd probably see a palace coup happening. He wants to see Kyiv totally under the control of Russia, and he won't stop until he is stopped.
So what do you expect then will come out of this meeting that Zelensky's going to have with Donald Trump in Florida?
Yeah, well, I expect that there's probably going to be a tough meeting, because the 20 points that Zelenskyy is bringing to Trump, they're not going to be acceptable to the Russians, because Russians don't want to stop the war. So Trump will probably try to threaten or cause Zelenskyy to give in on certain items. For example, the first item is that Ukraine is a sovereign state. That has to be accepted by Russia. Now, that was the first item in the 28-point plan as well, but then they said, but you are a sovereign state, but you must promise never to join NATO. Well, a sovereign state can join any alliance that it wishes. So those two are incompatible points. So that NATO business has been left out of this current plan of Zelensky's. And there's a whole lot of other things.
Strategically, no doubt. Is Donald Trump going to accept this new peace plan put forward by Zelenskyy?
Well, that remains to be seen. But I would expect they would try to... well, they have been trying to get the Ukrainians to agree to give up their fortress cities in that 1/3 of the Donetsk province that they still control. The Russians have been trying to get control of those cities for 11 years and 4 years of full-scale war. They have not succeeded. And now they want the Ukrainians to just hand it over to them. Well, that's not going to happen. It goes against the Ukrainian constitution.
Agreement on territory?
I don't think that there will be. I don't think that point will ever be agreed on by the Ukrainians or the Russians. And the Russians will use any excuse not to stop the war, because they want to continue it. They think they have the upper hand. The only way that Trump can secure a ceasefire, or at least a stopping of the war, is to give Ukraine overwhelming military force, and also backed up by very, very good sanctions. And in that way, you can dissuade Putin, perhaps. But I suspect that Putin will fight the bitter end to the last Russian soldier that there is to try to achieve his goal, which is the destruction of the Ukrainian sovereign state and Ukrainian people, in fact.
Just before we let you go, while we've got your expertise, can you paint a picture of the significance of that nuclear power plant? It's being managed by Russia at the moment. US putting forward a proposal about what should happen?
Well, the plan that Zelenskyy is taking to Trump right now has a plan where it would be controlled a third by Ukraine, the United States and Russia, and that half of the electricity would be going to Ukraine. I don't think that the Russians will agree to anything in relation to that plan, in relation to that power station. So they won't want to give an inch on what they already hold, and they want Ukrainians to give up territory that the Russians do not hold. So I think they're going to be, everybody's going to be disappointed at the end, but Mr. Trump has to learn that, what is the absolute goal of the Russians, and it's not to control 20% of Ukraine. It is to control Kyiv, in particular the capital of Ukraine, because that is what he sees as belonging to Russia.
Well, let's wait to see the outcome of that meeting. I'll be really interested to see whether anything is agreed. Michael Lawriwsky, thank you so much for coming on Sky News.
Thank you.